My name is Melanie Cross. I'm 38 years old, the eldest daughter in a family that never quite learned the difference between love and leverage. I spent my entire life playing the role of the responsible one, the fixer, the peacemaker, the one who remembered everyone's birthday and stayed late to clean up after every gathering. You grow up thinking that if you just give enough, prove yourself enough, they'll finally treat you as more than just the family utility. But this Thanksgiving I learned the truth. Not just about my family, about myself. It started with silence, the kind of silence that vibrates in group chats, where your message floats alone and unread while everyone else keeps laughing in side threads. A week before Thanksgiving, my Aunt Carla sent a message to the family group. "Can't wait to see everyone Thursday," I replied quickly, like I always did. "Same here, looking forward to it." But something in the air shifted. There was no heart reaction, no smiley face, just quiet. 3 hours later, my cousin sent me a private text. "Wait, are you actually coming? Your mom said you weren't invited this year." At first I laughed. It had to be a misunderstanding. I called my mother, expecting a simple explanation. Instead she danced around it. "We're keeping it small this year," she said casually. "Just immediate family." I blinked. "I am immediate family." She sighed like I was being difficult. "It's just easier this way, less tension." There was no tension. At least not until I stopped paying for my brother's car repairs or covering the wedding debt my sister left behind. I checked the guest list through other channels. Everyone else was still invited. My siblings, their spouses, even third cousins, everyone but me. And yet, they had no problem accepting my money. A month prior my dad had asked if I could chip in for the Thanksgiving meal. I didn't just chip in, I paid for everything. The turkey from Maple and Pine, the sides, the gourmet pumpkin cheesecake from Sweet Laurel. Every order placed under my name, every invoice sent to my inbox. They used me, then erased me. That's when I made 2 quiet calls, one to the butcher, one to the bakery. Both issued quick refunds once I forwarded my receipts. The food was canceled, but I didn't raise my voice. I didn't warn them, I just waited. Thanksgiving Day arrived. At exactly 12:17 p.m., my phone rang. My father's name lit up the screen. I answered on the 4th ring, leaning calmly against my kitchen island, with a mug of cider. "The food never came," he said, confused and panicked. Behind his voice I could hear the chaos, murmurs, sharp whispers, my mother's voice rising in disbelief. I tilted my head, as if thinking. "Oh," I said smoothly. "I assumed you didn't need anything from me." The silence on the other end was beautiful, heavy, stunned, and the first taste of a truth they weren't ready for. The hours after that call were quieter than I expected. No angry follow-ups, no frantic apologies, just silence, the kind that comes when people are too stunned to decide who to blame first. I poured myself another drink and watched the leaves fall outside my window. For the first time in years I didn't feel guilty for not being there. I felt free, and that terrified me more than it comforted me, because if freedom feels like peace, what does that say about what I called love for so long? Looking back, the signs were always there. My family didn't love me in the way love is supposed to feel. They loved what I could do for them. I was the dependable one, the filler of gaps, the fixer of chaos. When my sister forgot to submit her college application, I stayed up with her until 3 a.m., rebuilding her portfolio. When my brother crashed his car senior year, I maxed out my credit card so he wouldn't miss prom. And when my parents wanted a new roof but couldn't quite afford it, I volunteered my tax refund. None of it was asked gently. It was expected, with a smile. And I let it happen. That's the part that aches the most. Not their entitlement, but my compliance. I told myself I was being the bigger person. I told myself it was love, but it wasn't. It was fear. Fear that if I stopped giving, they'd stop seeing me at all. And they proved me right. The second I stopped being useful, I stopped being welcome. They didn't just forget me on Thanksgiving, they erased me. And the worst part, I almost let them. That day, after the empty meal and awkward stares, my cousin Riley texted, "Girl." The dining room went silent when Uncle Ron asked where the turkey was. "Your mom tried to blame Maple and Pine, but everyone knows she didn't order it." Then she added, "Was that you?" I didn't respond right away. I didn't need to. The truth was doing its work without me lifting a finger. The tension they blamed on me wasn't mine to carry anymore. It was theirs. I just stopped holding it. 3 days later a group text popped up from my mom. "We really missed you at Thanksgiving. Hope we can put this behind us." There was no apology, no ownership, just the kind of message people send when they want to skip past the mess without sweeping it up. I stared at it for a long time, my thumb hovered over the keyboard, crafting and deleting a dozen replies. But in the end I said nothing. Sometimes silence is louder than shouting. Then Aunt Carla called. Melanie, I just want you to know, a lot of us saw what happened. We confronted your parents. Your mom didn't take it well. I could hear the weight in her voice, like she was choosing her words carefully. She's telling people you sabotaged Thanksgiving on purpose, that you're unstable. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there, in my kitchen, gripping the counter until my knuckles turned white. My mother hadn't just excluded me. She was rewriting the narrative, painting me as the villain in a story she authored, and I knew then, if she was going to lie about me, I'd make damn sure the truth had its own stage. I didn't rush to respond. That's the thing about power, it's most effective when it's silent. While my mother was spinning stories about my supposed instability, I was studying the silence in between the family chatter. Who responded to her? Who didn't? Who reached out to me privately? And who stayed conveniently neutral? You learn a lot when you're no longer scrambling to explain yourself, and what I learned was this. My silence made people curious, and curiosity is dangerous to a manipulator. I wasn't looking for revenge, not in the petty sense. I didn't want to embarrass her publicly or go toe-to-toe in a screaming match. That's not my style. What I wanted was clarity. I wanted the people around her to start asking their own questions. I wanted them to realize that the family glue she claimed to hold together was cracking, and that I wasn't the one who struck the first blow. So I did what I always do best. I planned, carefully, quietly, strategically. I remembered something important. My grandmother, my mom's own mother, had been cut off from family gatherings for years. No one ever said it aloud, but there was a long-standing feud, something about inheritance and disrespect. I never bought into it. I stayed in touch with Grandma, sent her cards, checked in monthly. She was sharp, funny, and more perceptive than my mother ever gave her credit for. When I told her what happened on Thanksgiving, she didn't gasp or cry. She said, "Sounds like your mother's still playing the same tired game. Maybe it's time someone stopped letting her win." That conversation planted a seed. Christmas was approaching, and I already knew my mother would try to bury Thanksgiving under a mountain of tinsel and polite smiles. She wanted control of the story. I was going to take that from her without a single insult, without a raised voice. I called Grandma again. "Would you like to come to Christmas dinner?" There was a pause. "Do you think your mother would have a heart attack?" I laughed. "Hopefully not, but if she does, at least dessert will be memorable." I planned everything down to the hour. I'd arrive just late enough to be noticed, and I wouldn't come alone. Letting Grandma walk through that door would be my quiet rebellion. Not loud, not cruel, just honest. Her presence would be a mirror, reflecting every ounce of my mother's hypocrisy back at her, because nothing shakes a liar like the return of the truth they tried to bury. And Grandma, well, she had decades of unspoken truth to offer. Christmas Eve came. I wore red, her favorite color, and arrived with a calm smile. I remember the hush when we stepped through the doorway. My mother looked like she'd seen a ghost. My father stiffened. My sister dropped her wine glass. And Grandma, poised and radiant, stepped into the living room like she had never left. "Oh my," she said, her voice syrupy sweet. "It's been so long since I've been welcomed here." And just like that, my mother's carefully constructed story began to collapse, without a word from me. Dinner that night felt like a stage play. Every movement choreographed, every word loaded. My mother clutched her wineglass like it was a lifeline. My father barely made eye contact. The room buzzed with attention only the most oblivious could miss. And then Grandma, with the grace only age and exile could forge, leaned over her plate and asked, "Did you make this stuffing yourself, dear? It tastes very consistent, like something you'd find pre-packaged." I nearly choked on my cider. My mother blinked, then smiled. Too wide, too polished. The performance was beginning to crack. Conversations at the table grew stilted. My sister tried to keep things light, but the usual flow wasn't there. My cousin Riley whispered across the table, "You're a legend." I smiled politely, but said nothing. Let them interpret my silence however they needed to. The truth had already entered the room. My mother wasn't just uncomfortable, she was unraveling. Her voice grew shrill at odd moments. She corrected people over trivial things. Her mask, so meticulously maintained, was slipping, and for once I didn't lift a finger to save her. The next day, texts trickled in, like aftershocks. "Everything okay? Heard there was some tension. You really brought Grandma." Bold. Some were supportive, others were passive-aggressive, towing the line between curiosity and accusation. Aunt Carla called again. Melanie, your mom is telling people you had a breakdown. She's saying you showed up uninvited and tried to ruin Christmas. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Of course she is. My mother wasn't fighting for the truth. She was fighting for control, and I had taken it from her without ever raising my voice. That week, my father called, twice. I ignored the first one, answered the second. We need to talk, he said. I asked, about what? His reply was clipped. Your little stunt humiliated your mother. There it was. Not hurt her, not shocked her, humiliated her. It was always about appearances, about what people would think. You didn't want me at Thanksgiving, I said quietly, but you wanted my money. Then you rewrote the story to make me the villain. He sighed. It wasn't that serious, Melanie. My voice turned to ice. Then why are you calling me? I hung up before he could answer. My hands shook, but I felt more steady than I had in weeks. That night, I typed out a message to the family group chat, just a simple neutral statement. Hey all, just wanted to clear up some confusion. I'm fine. No breakdowns, no drama. Just spending the holidays a little differently this year. Hope everyone is well. Happy New Year. It was unshakable. A clean truth with no emotion to twist. The equivalent of locking the door and drawing the curtains while your enemy fumes on the other side. And just when I thought the dust was settling, Ethan, my brother, texted, Hey, can we talk? We hadn't spoken since before Thanksgiving. My heart stuttered, unsure if this was another ambush or something else. I called immediately. His voice came through uncertain, softer than I remembered. Look, I don't agree with what Mom did, and I didn't say anything at the time, but Christmas really opened my eyes. I didn't say a word. I let him fill the silence. You're not crazy, Melanie. You were just the first one to stop playing her game. Ethan's words stayed with me long after the call ended. For years I had felt like I was screaming into a void, quietly, internally, hoping someone in my family would notice the cracks beneath the polished surface. Now finally, one voice had echoed back, and that voice wasn't angry. It was tired, honest. He wasn't defending our parents. He wasn't playing neutral. He was simply saying the truth out loud, something I had longed to hear for decades. You're not the problem. That one moment shifted something in me. It wasn't about being right anymore. It was about being free, free from the role they'd assigned me, the dramatic one, the sensitive one, the one who makes things harder than they need to be. I had carried the weight of their dysfunction for years, believing I could earn their love through usefulness. But love that must be earned is just manipulation wearing perfume. And when I stopped performing, they didn't love me less. They simply lost interest, until I disrupted their script. My mother's next move came fast, a phone call short and clipped. We need to talk, in person. I asked, about what? She answered with the sharpness of a woman unaccustomed to resistance. Your little stunt humiliated me. Still, no remorse, no introspection, just bruised ego. She demanded I come to Sunday dinner. I considered declining, but Aunt Carla called before I could. Go, she said. Let them say it to your face. They owe you that much. So I went. The table was set like always, white linen, crystal glasses, perfect lighting, but the air was different, dense, nervous. My father stood at the end of the table like a statue. My mother sat at the head, arms folded, her mouth a straight line. My sister avoided eye contact. Ethan looked like he hadn't slept. No one touched the food. My mother broke the silence first. Do you have any idea what you've done? I met her gaze. Which part are you mad about? Canceling the turkey, bringing Grandma to Christmas, or the part where people stopped believing your version of the story? She flinched. My father stepped in, trying to mediate. You embarrassed her, Melanie. I tilted my head. She excluded me, used my money, lied about me, and now I'm the embarrassment. My voice didn't rise, but the weight of my words did. Then Ethan spoke, quiet, but certain. She's right. The whole room stilled. Mom, you did tell everyone she wasn't coming. You let her pay for everything. That was wrong. My mother's eyes narrowed, turning on him. Don't you start too. But Ethan didn't back down. You crossed a line and you're mad that she didn't let it stay hidden this time. For a moment I thought she might erupt, but instead she said something that stopped the room cold. I didn't want to be the villain. And there it was, the confession, the core of it all. She wasn't sorry for the act, only for being seen. She didn't want to fix what was broken. She just didn't want anyone to know she broke it. And as she looked down, unable to meet my eyes, I realized something deeply freeing. She wasn't stronger than me. She was just louder. I stood slowly, not out of anger, but because there was nothing left to say. My mother stared at her plate like she expected it to offer her a way out. My father kept shifting his gaze between us, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. The illusion was broken, and there's no fixing something when its cracks come from the inside out. I'm done, I said simply. I don't need an apology, because I don't think you know how to give one, but I need you to know that I'm done covering for you. Her head snapped up like she'd been slapped. You don't just get to walk away, she hissed. You did this. I stayed calm, meeting her eyes with the steadiness of someone who's finally free. No, I replied. You shut me out. Then, when people noticed, you made me the villain, because it's easier to tell a story than to admit the truth. My words didn't land with rage. They landed with clarity. For once I wasn't speaking to be heard. I was speaking to let go. I turned to my father. You watched it happen. You let it happen, and that hurt too. He looked down, ashamed but silent, and maybe silence was his confession. I looked to my siblings next. My sister's face was tight, guilt written across it. She whispered, I should have said something sooner. Ethan gave a soft nod. Me too. Their regret didn't erase the past, but it mattered, because someone in that room besides me finally acknowledged the truth. That was all I ever wanted. In the weeks that followed, I created distance, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. My mother sent vague texts. Can we move past this? I left them unread. Aunt Carla called often. Grandma sent a letter that I keep in my nightstand, filled with love and pride. But it was Ethan who surprised me. He asked to meet for coffee, and in a quiet cafe in West Asheville, we talked for hours. I didn't realize how much she controlled the story, he said, but I see it now. I just didn't want to rock the boat. I smiled sadly. Sometimes the boat needs to be rocked. There, in that cafe, I realized something profound. I wasn't alone anymore. The narrative had shifted. My mother's grip was weakening, and I had reclaimed my voice without shouting once. If you've ever been the scapegoat in your family, the one who notices too much, feels too deeply, speaks too truthfully, then you know how lonely it can be to stop pretending. But you also know the quiet power of walking away without slamming the door. That power changes everything. So too, anyone out there still waiting for a seat at a table that's never offered more than crumbs, hear this. You don't have to stay hungry just because they call it love. Walk away, set a new table, fill it with peace, laughter, and people who don't need you to bleed, just to belong. The empty chair you leave behind won't be your shame. It will be your boundary, your freedom, your soft, defiant revolution. And if you're still reading, still nodding, still holding back your own truth, this is your sign. Drop a comment, share your story. You're not alone, your voice matters, and peace isn't something they give you. It's something you take back, quietly, powerfully, and permanently.